I guess that would be a question that we would ask, and I guess I've got those questions written down. We'll ask. I've got those questions ready to ask once public comment has been completed. Does that work for you, sir?
That's perfect.
All right. And if I don't, sir, remind me about it, and I'll ask those questions. Okay.
Okay, is there anyone else?
I'm David Edwards, and I represent Heritage Property Management. If we can go back to the screen with the overall plans. So I own the property that's in the upper right-hand corner, and it's currently a residential mobile home park. Has been there for over 20 years. My concern is that there's no landscape buffer that's put between the two pieces of property. They're requiring it, or it's listed down on the left side, bottom left side, but there's not any on the upper right side. I realize part of it is undeveloped land, but part of it is mobile home park, and my concern is moving in very nice houses up against a mobile home park, and there's over 30 lots stacked in there. My concern is of the complaints and the problems that I'm going to have, starting at what point. And I've had no complaints over the last 20 years, but I know that it's substantially different from affordable housing to the aged housing and what could be potential problems from my end of it. So I'm just looking at the feasibility of adding a landscape buffer in between those two parcels of property.
Okay, thank you.
Got that noted.
All right, anyone else?
Hi, my name is Richard Perona. I live in Sanders Ridge. And I was at the community meeting in August, and we brought up the issues of traffic that was just mentioned on Westmoreland and on Houston and on Shepherd, as well as traffic going through Sugar Hill. I was under the impression that that was going to be included in the traffic impact analysis, because we did point out that we have potentially, say, 1,500 cars, and if they want to go south towards 21 or if they want to go west towards the freeway, they're going to either use Shepherd, Westmoreland, or Houston Road. So all of those vehicles are going to be going out to 21 and trying to make left or right turns out there. In particular, I brought up the question about Sanders Ridge. There's a connector road that goes off to the left there in yellow. Other than the main entrance that goes down to Houston, there are no other ways for these folks to get out to Houston Road. So we potentially have basically the whole bottom half either going to go out that main entrance, or if they live over to the left, they're going to go out through Sanders Ridge. And I had also asked if that could be included in the traffic impact analysis, because here we have a community that the quickest way for those homeowners to go is through our neighborhood. There is a way on the very left-hand yellow, but they don't own the property. So there's a potential for a future connection to Houston, but the only way to get out to Houston Road is that main entrance. And that's going to be clogged up with people in there, so they're going to cut through Sanders Ridge. I think that was traffic and Sanders Ridge. I think those were the two main items. So I didn't hear anything on the traffic impact analysis. I don't know if it's been, you said it isn't completed yet, but I didn't see any indication that the path through Sanders Ridge seemed to be addressed at all. There was one last item I just happened to notice on the posting on the website for this facility, and it was mentioned that it's single-family homes. It allows bed and breakfast and allows residential care facilities. So I don't know if that's normal, but it's a little bit of a red flag to me. So, thank you.
Thank you. As far as the traffic impact?
Yes, sir. I had that question.
Okay.
Connected to Sanders Ridge.
And we also need to address the other bed and breakfast. And
That's a question.
but,
Yeah, yes, sir.
we're gonna kind of hold most of this till after the public comment. Okay,
I was looking at that.
okay, next.
How you doing, Council? My name is Camaro Wilson, and here to represent South Iredell Amazon. Just like the other guy, we would like to get some buffer room for our churches down on Winford Road. And I think you're gonna have to address the traffic coming on Winford Road. That sharp curve is gonna probably have to be taken out because y'all gonna have so much traffic, like he's saying, going through Sander Ridge and coming off of Winford Road, all these shortcuts. And I mean, even Oswald Amity Road is gonna get a good little hit too, you know, but not too bad. And I think that's all I had for y'all today.
Okay, thank you.
What's your first name, sir?
Camaro Wilson.
Mayor?
Camaro.
Mayor Rose.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, good evening. My name's Nathaniel Rogers. Politely, I was here, 7, 8 years before any of this was, of what we've discussed in all the other neighborhoods that are not so happy with the traffic arrangements, and I agree with them. I don't think we can stop, forward movement of the community. Politely, I don't believe we can. All that we ask is that, what's bared upon us is nice and willful. Houston Road, super narrow road. I don't know if any of you guys, girls, live around there, drive down there. But even just 2-lane cars passing by is enough, much less you pass a construction truck who's in your lane and clearly over your lane. It's just not appeasable. Politely, the intersections aren't either. My only thought is to it, again, we can't pass it, so let's at least make it nice on the community around. Let's fix the roads, widen it, if possible, to being, something that's, just appeasable to everybody and fix the intersections. So I appreciate your time, guys.
Thank you.
I will, young lady. Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else? Kim, did you get any comments? Okay, I will now close this public comment time. And if the applicant would like to come back up here, we're gonna have some questions.
All right. Well, first, I'd like to thank the community for showing up tonight. First, to our community meeting that we had on August 9th, and also coming here on your evening to discuss the petition with us. So thank you for dedicating your time tonight. I would like to address a couple of the comments. One from Mr. Edwards, who is the owner of the mobile home park right next to the development. So we have not yet had a good opportunity to revise and resubmit a site plan. He actually made that request during our community meeting back on August 9th. In our resubmittal that we have within the next week or so, it will actually include that buffer that he requested. So we'll have a development condition and also within the site plan show a landscape buffer between the backyards of those homes and his property. So just wanted to make note that that's something that we've already incorporated. We just haven't submitted a site plan update to planning yet.
I'm sorry, do you know what the footage is on that?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I can let you know.
Okay.
I'll let Lynn know, and then we'll make sure that gets out to all of you. I'm sorry, I just don't recall that width off the top of my head.
Okay.
Is it going to be bermed or just planted?
I think it's just planted right now. I don't believe we have made any commitments to do a berm.
Will there be a planting detail with that buffer?
It's certainly something we can include. Yeah, absolutely. Or we can just defer to a specific type of planting design guideline that's noted within the UDO. Either way. But we're comfortable with that.
Yeah, let's include that detail.
Okay.
That'd be great.
And what about the buffering around the church property?
We'll take a look at the location of that buffer, and if we're able to make an accommodation there, we can certainly do that.
Well, I'm kind of concerned about buffering the whole surrounding the subdivision because it's completely different than what's around it, even though the density is 2.27. When you look at the lot sizes and all, and I would like to see a minimum of 25-foot buffer around the whole perimeter. I don't know if that's something you're willing to do.
Well, this being a single-family community, directly adjacent, a single-family community, I mean, I think having single-family detached, adjacent single-family detached are two compatible uses. We can certainly look at maybe doing some additional plantings, but a 25-foot buffer is quite a lot. But we can certainly take a look at accommodating that.
No, it's not actually a lot.
Okay. Lynn, can you help me out? Are there any buffer requirements within the UDO when you have a single-family community adjacent to single-family community in Troutman?
There are not. That's not a requirement. We do a lot of times require that through the conditional zoning process. In this situation, I mean, Sanders Ridge and this development are similar in lot size in some portions, but you know, like I said, that's something that our ordinance does not require. Typically, buffers are between differing uses to protect one use from another, more intense
We
use.
do have something that's a little unclear. Under perimeter buffer, it does have a reference, but it also says none unless adjacent to existing RP, RS, and RT. Well, this is the county versions of those zonings, because it's not ETJ or town, except for the little bit that is next to it that is in the town. But, and it's a little unclear, but typically we've seen most of the subdivisions, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, have a minimum of 25-foot buffer. Is that correct?
I don't know that I could speak for all subdivisions, but I have seen it on some of our recent rezonings, yes.
And Colonial Crossing has a minimum of 75-foot buffer around the whole perimeter, and some of it 125 foot. So
That's a substantial buffer.
but it's still not that much when you're going from a rural setting to a subdivision.
You're exactly right. I mean, this is certainly a rural setting, which is why we wanted to make sure that the dwelling units per acre was low, and also we preserve so much open space on site as well. I mean, just as a reminder, we're required to do 10%, and we're providing 40% open space on site. So we're certainly sensitive to that rural character, and also wanting to make sure that we maintain as much open space as possible for the community, and making sure that we provide some protections for those environmental features that we found on site as well.
Yeah, and I know this particular property has a lot of features that will not allow you to build on it. So some of it's not because you want to, some of it's because you can't build on it.
Yeah, I will agree with that. You know, as a land planner, I certainly agree that there's certainly at times some components that you can't build on. But as someone that's a proponent of wanting to make sure that small lots, I think, is a good thing for the environment. And I think that the petitioners here are certainly wanting to try and achieve that to reduce the amount of impact on the land as they possibly can. Larger lots typically have more impact, and again, we're just really committed here to making sure that we maintain and keep as much open space on site as we possibly can, and I hope the site plan demonstrates that.
Yes, I see some things I really like, but the design and proposed, this is on the application, the design of the proposed CZ district uses minimization of adverse effects, including visual impacts of the proposed use on adjacent lands and avoidance of significant adverse impacts on surrounding lands regarding trash, traffic, delivery service, parking, loading, odor, noise, glare, vibration, and not create a nuisance. So, in my opinion, we do need a buffer around the entire perimeter. I mean, that's what a lot of these people are asking for.
Okay. if I could, it's kind of difficult in the moment to make a decision on that. If I could talk to the petitioners about that, and we can maybe get back to you.
And you're wanting to go to town council in December,
That's correct, yes.
not November.
Not November.
So if, like some of the stuff, if you could come back to us if you were okay with continuing it a month.
Again, can I speak to I'd like to talk to the clients, the builders that are here, so we can discuss this. That's kind of a granular thing that I need some guidance on, if I would appreciate that moment.
All right.
Okay.
Sure.
If we could maybe jump to some of the, while I'm discussing that with them, I think we can go ahead and jump into some of the questions you all may have regarding traffic. I'd like to introduce the traffic engineer, Randy Goddard, with Design Resource Group, who did the scoping with NCDOT and Troutman, and also completed the TIA study. Thank you, Randy.
Thanks, Paul. Again, I'm Randy Goddard with Design Resource Group. We prepared the traffic study for this project, and I know you've got some questions. I think I can hit on a few. So as far as the intersections with Westmoreland and Shepherd 221, those were not required to be analyzed as part of the approved scope with NCDOT and the town. So we kind of took a worst-case scenario with traffic to Houston in 21, and that's the reason we're looking at significant improvements at that intersection, including turn lanes and traffic signal. So that's what came out of that traffic discussion in scoping the document, and of course, we then followed the approved scope to prepare the traffic study. In addition to that, the connection to the adjacent subdivision, so that was brought up for the connection to Sanders Ridge. And on the plan, and it was noted, so we looked at that, and that connection was assumed to be the very last connection made for the overall subdivision of everything. And we, after the last in the community meeting, we spoke with Lynn, and it's a required connection. We asked if we could delete that and not have that connection. It's not something we want to do, but it's a required connection because connectivity is usually a good thing between developments. So you can have traffic be able to disperse over multiple locations. So we looked at that, and then we included that intersection back out to Houston, and we analyzed that. So that is in the traffic study. It was not required by the town. It was not required by NCDOT, but we did include that in the traffic study that ended up going to NCDOT for review. And I think those were the ones that were the questions. If you've got some other ones, I'll be happy to answer and try to address those questions.
Did you look at the construction of the one-lane bridge?
No, because we didn't. We only analyzed that connection at Houston. We didn't take that traffic down to 21, so that was not looked at because we didn't have to look at those connections to those existing intersections on 21 back way on the other side of the interchange. So that's why we looked at Houston and 21 being the main connection back out to get to the interchange.
Could you go back to the TIA? Okay, yeah.
So again, with these connections here, we had the majority of the traffic here because a lot of the traffic's to and from the interchange. We were not required to look at the other connections back out to 21. So at Westmoreland, which is this intersection 5 in Houston, we didn't look at the one-lane bridge because again, these are the study intersections, 1, 2, 3, all these through here that we had to analyze as part of the traffic study. We didn't go all the way down on the other side of the interchange and analyze those intersections because it was not a requirement from NCDOT or the town.
Question, at intersection number 4 going south is 15%. I thought the rule was 10% distribution and disbursement was the DOT guidelines.
It's a 10% impact. So these ones here, we're looking at the percentages that were set up, and we looked at intersections actually more than 2 miles out, and those were the ones that were approved as far as the distribution.
But when
And
you-
that's just the overall distribution.
Right, when you went through the trip distribution, going through there, you had 15% going down.
Here,
With, 600 and some during peak hour, just as a rough measurement. You had enough impact at 4 to be analyzed, and that one showed up at no improvements.
that's correct.
And then going further south along that road, there still weren't any improvements, correct?
We didn't look any further south in that intersection. And again, this was scoped through NCDOT in the town. And we came up with what was assumed study intersections. They ended up adding to it. And then we followed that scope.
Did this go through congestion management or just the district?
It's going through congestion management, yes.
Okay.
Yep. And actually, congestion management signed off on the original scoping packet also. Because
Correct.
they
It does-
review it.
They sign off on a general scoping packet, but they also say that the 10% impact would have to be done at a
That's
later
a-
time to ensure that you have those taken care of, right?
Yep, and that's their general rule of thumb.
Yes.
Yes.
So you have to follow that through, even though it doesn't go through the scoping.
No, actually, we do take it through scoping.
That's what it is. Yeah, you
Yes.
take it through scoping, and if it does impact, you keep analyzing until it dissipates.
Right, or until they determine you don't look at any other intersections.
Correct.
Correct.
Any other questions about TIA or traffic?
I think, other question I had was the buffer around the church. That's not a residential, so that one would include a buffer. I know that would be incidental, not what they're talking about now, correct?
I don't know, I'm not sure how the property's zoned. The buffers are based on zoning, and churches are allowed in residential zoning districts.
Correct, but would that being a church being a buffer, would it warrant a buffer is my question.
It wouldn't be
different use, do you
required,
know?
I don't know what the zoning is of that property in the county, but if it's residentially zoned, it would not be required. Now, the applicant can agree to provide one there.
Okay, I was just trying to, Mr. Camaro was trying to just follow up with his comment. And the other one was bed and breakfast, and
Yeah. I'm not sure what he was referencing on the website. I don't know if he was looking at the RM district as a whole and what uses are permitted there. But this is, conditional zoning site specific, and I'm looking at their conditions list. Oh, let's see, permitted uses, single-family accessory home, occupations. It does have bed and breakfast listed in the conditions as a permitted use, as well as residential care facilities. So those are two uses that they've listed. So you would have to speak with the applicant about their intentions there. Anything that is approved here will become the zoning for this property.
One additional thing on this east piece of the property, it only has one entrance and one exit. And further via that would be, assuming that they don't reduce the number of homes with.
well, that's why I have to get my little glasses on. Proposed road 23 and road from intersection at road 22 and 20 on the left side.
I'm looking at the right-hand side.
The same concept on the left side, because you got all those cul-de-sacs. From that intersection of road 22 and road 20, you've got a single point of access there. So anything to the north and at road 24 or 23, I counted up, I think I miscounted, I got 100 homes in that cul-de-sac area. I agree with you, that would be a second entrance requirement on that section. And same thing on the right side as well. I think you got about 100 on the right side. Oh, Mr. Goddard, did you, with the new family, growing family, and age targeted, did you use different,
All the same trip
Single-
generation,
okay.
single family. We didn't take any reductions because again, it's only age targeted.
Thank you.
Sure.
Speaking of the breakdown of the homes, do you know, I know you said 245 for age, 279 for growing families, 105 for new families. Do you have a breakdown of how big those houses are, what size lots? I know you said something about one floor with the age target. Do you have any breakdown?
I do. All right, so the growing families are 52-foot wide lots. Excuse me, I'm sorry. The new families are 52-foot wide lots. And the growing families and the age targeted are a mix of 55s and 65s.
What's the proposed construction of the homes? Are these on slab or are they on crawl?
These are all slab.
So given the topography of the land, you're looking to step these lots.
Yes, they would be, yeah. And Chair Member Farmer, we've went through and we've discussed the buffer. The 25-foot buffer should be something that we can accommodate. We have been working with the property owners, and we'd like to have a discussion with them as well on the buffer around their property. We've already been building in some buffer areas between their existing homes where they're going to be living and staying. So the buffer in those areas is pretty restrictive, but everywhere else in the community, we can commit to doing a 25-foot buffer.
Okay. Now, what about would it be a berm buffer? Would it be vegetative, like trees, bushes?
I think we could certainly do a planted vegetated buffer. Absolutely.
That meets our standard of the UDO for buffer?
That would be fine.
Okay.
And by the church, can you do it by the church?
We should be able to do it by the church as well. Yes. Yeah.
The location of trails, I know you showed us that, but it's not on the, I don't believe it's on the, what you would actually submit.
That's correct. We'd like some flexibility on that just because of the sensitive nature of what's out there. A lot of times these types of greenway trails are actually located, I actually go out there and walk and put a flag down and say, let's make sure the trail is here, just because, you know, there may be trees or something out there that we want to make sure we don't go right through inadvertently. So while we're showing the trails, I think we've made some commitments within the development conditions, or we can make some commitments within the development conditions about total linear footage of trails, and we're comfortable doing that. But actually at this point, showing like exactly where they're going, we'd like some flexibility there with that.
The other question, I see that there's some mulch, paved, and concrete trails.
That's right.
Is mulch allowed?
We only require, the only time we require a solid surface trail is if it's part of our greenway system and it shows some connectivity to our trail system. So if these are just trails that are going to be used and maintained by the HOA, we don't typically require anything.
That'll be HOA maintained?
These trails are HOA maintained, correct, yes.
Okay.
And under item landscaping and buffer, it's got 2-inch caliper and size of trees minimum. I think our UDO says 2.5, I believe. Isn't that right, Lynn?
Yes, sir.
That's fine. We can certainly make that adjustment. Absolutely.
Under site 13, the site will provide a minimum 4-acre primary amenity areas as general depicted on the rezoning plan to include a minimum of 3 of the following: primary amenity features, pool, cabana, and restroom, outdoor community gathering space, playground, pickleball court. In addition, a minimum of 2 of the following, and it gives a list of other, for the fairly long list of stuff there. My concern is, when you say 3, you could leave, I mean, you wouldn't have to put a pool. You could put the other 3 things.
That's true, but there's also a marketability component. And really, when we initially submitted the development conditions to the town, we wanted to show some level of commitment, like, hey, we're serious about doing amenity. And then we wanted to demonstrate to you and council really the actual level of amenities that are being planned here. I mean, we want this to be a successful community, and for it to meet the story of the framework of what we're creating, that level of amenities that we're showing within the presentation is really what's likely going to be constructed. Just we wanted to show on an initial submittal some level of commitment to amenities on site.
Yeah, it's like I mean, would you commit to pool and cabana being one of them?
I think that's fine. Yeah. Yeah.
And, I mean, you put a lot of things on the screen, but you're not, the part that requires it's here.
That's right.
And, I mean, you can, that's my concern. That sounded good and all, but maybe a little more commitment.
What level of commitment would you like?
What do you, I mean, can you go back to that screen?
Do you have the clicker?
Yeah.
I mean, what feasibly do you think? I know you said you wanted to do most of that, but
I think feasibly most of that would probably wind up being a part of the community. The pickleball courts, the green spaces, the playgrounds, the disc golf, the fire pits. I mean, I think there are probably some smaller ancillary ones like the dog washing station that we're interested in doing. It's just architecturally, those haven't programmed them in yet. This is intent. We just haven't gotten to that level of detail. But if we need to make the list broader within the development conditions to include more of these items, and instead of 3, maybe commit to 6 or 7, I think that's certainly something that we're comfortable doing. Again, we just wanted to submit and show some level of, hey, we're really doing some things here, everybody.
yeah, I mean, my concern is we've seen developments that said they were going to build things and it never happened. Yeah. Because it wasn't in writing.
I certainly understand your concern. I certainly understand it.
That's why I'm concerned about it.
Yeah. And again, if there's something that we can incorporate in the development conditions to add an additional layer of comfort that what we're showing you is our intent, we're comfortable with that.
I just think if we just say on the verbiage, just get rid of the word minimum of 3.
For those 3 items, or do you?
You need to pick the 3. You need to pick them, right?
Well, you need to
that's
pick.
what you're looking for, right?
Well, you need to pick something like, if you want a pool, you need to make sure, I mean, some of the other things don't matter so much.
I mean,
It's
like
whatever.
Like food truck parking pads.
Well, that's what I'm saying, right here. Just say, get rid of this sentence and say, to include a pool, cabana with restrooms, outdoor community gathering spaces, playground, pickleball court. Don't even say 3, just that sentence right there.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's fine.
A firm commitment.
Sure.
Okay?
We can agree to remove that sentence. That's fine.
And then, in addition, if we want to change that, we can.
Yeah, put a higher number of amenities in the other. I mean, let them pick what they.
Sure.
But you're gonna have a basic.
A basic package.
And
Yeah,
anything else in addition to is good.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I mean, you can always do more.
Of course. Yeah. I would just like to ask that we're not limited to that list, because there's some things up here that aren't necessarily in that list, just so we have more variety, I suppose.
Right,
Okay.
absolutely. I'm just saying, as a basic package for amenities, you know where that first sentence is? Instead of saying to include a minimum, just say to include pool, cabana with restrooms, outdoor community gathering spaces, playground, pickleball court. That's the basic package.
Yes.
Yes.
That's fine. Sure.
Yeah.
So what do you want to do the second sentence? In addition, a minimum of two of
Yeah,
the.
we haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay, and I was going to say the last sentence, I think, takes care of the flexibility.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, it does.
Mhm.
So we wouldn't have to, additional amenity features not included within this list shall be permissible with all the noted amenity areas, space areas.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because it might be feasible to put another playground in there somewhere versus just in one location.
Mm,
That type of thing.
I see, yeah.
So did you want that number changed?
Yeah, I'd like to see that number higher, but I don't want to limit them to exactly what they have to put in
Oh, I
there.
don't want to tell them what it can, yeah.
So is the second sentence,
It's the minimum of two of the following items located within the noted secondary amenity area that we're discussing now, which they've got they've got some other things.
Could we leave that up to staff to, I mean, I don't want to put no burden on y'all, but while y'all getting the nuts and bolts and doing that, you're looking at what, like you said, what can be programmed in,
Right.
and, you know, like you said, moving a trail over, whatever, if you've got a space that you thought was gonna be a bench, you could now put a fire pit with benches
Mhm.
around it.
Right.
To make it more pleasing. Could we, I mean, I don't wanna put burden on you, but I mean, is that, while he knuckles it down and gets to the final drawings,
Yes.
would that work?
Yes, and I think to that sentence, I think, are we talking about the second sentence now?
Yes.
It basically says two of the following within each noted secondary amenity area. So I think that they're looking to include a lot of these things. So I think that the question was, is two going to be enough? But if it, you know,
Two in each section.
Two in each
Correct.
section.
Yeah, but I think if we allow them the flexibility to program it in, then, but we gotta have count, or,
yes, we would
Staff to
enforce
do it.
these conditions, yes, sir.
Or maybe you want to include this list they're showing right here, because it has more stuff in it, is
or he may wanna add or subtract something.
And this list has actually been expanded since we initially submitted the development conditions. So again, we just haven't had the opportunity to expand on that. And I think we certainly are willing to do
Well,
so.
we can just make sure that that's added to this condition 13.
they have to do minimum of the items, the three items, or the list of items, I think there's 4 items. And then additional, I don't know, what are you comfortable with? I know you said,
I think probably, let's double it. I think we say 2 now, 4 in each area. 4 amenity areas within each
He just,
community.
I think 2 in each area is actually 6. I think with the firm commitment to the base 4,
Mhm.
that kind of flexibility in the other areas, so that we have the spatial ability to accommodate those is going to be pretty important.
Okay, so the 2, so the base 4, and then 2 additional amenities in each area.
In each
Yeah.
is 6 overall, I think, in addition to the trails, yes.
so that's in 2 in each area.
Yes.
That's how it reads
Yes.
currently.
Okay,
It's not just 2, it's 2 in each
2.
area, which is 6.
okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
he was
Thank you for
getting
telling me
cross-eyed.
he was
Yeah, he
waving
was
me
getting
down.
cross-eyed. But I think we've done, leave it up to staff for helping y'all program things.
Okay.
All right?
I have a couple of questions. Excuse me. You said you're going to resubmit your plan based on community input. What are some of the things that you're changing as a result of that community input?
So the most notable was the buffer that was originally requested during the community meeting on August 9th. That's actually already been incorporated. However, that buffer will just make sure that that's a 25-foot buffer moving forward, since we're committing to doing a minimum 25-foot buffer around the community. We'll talk to the property owners. So that'll be the property owners selling the property about what type, if any, buffer we do there. So there's that change. Also, the Sandler's Ridge connection, let me jump. I recall during the community meeting, it's this connection here, and I think during the community meeting, one of the major concerns was construction traffic, and making sure that that connection is not made to Sandridge Ridge until construction is completed. So I remember that was actually going to be a development condition change that we're going to commit to making sure that that connection doesn't occur until construction is completed. So that was going to be something that we were going to change. And now with the addition of the amenity areas, we'll probably show some amenity nodes within the site plan to identify where we think those amenity areas will be on the site plan. Just to provide further layer of commitment to the amenity areas on site.
And with the TIA, it said phase one, and how many phases are in this site?
From a construction standpoint, I'm not sure if we have, Paul, have we identified the total number of construction phases yet? That has not been determined.
But at the completion of phase one, the improvements to the intersection with the signal would be incorporated and installed.
Yes, yes.
And what is phase one?
How many lots were there in phase one, Randy? We'll let you know how many lots there were in phase one. We just haven't divided up where the lots are on the site plan. That's why I don't know what the phasing is just yet.
I had phase one at 377.
Half.
See, my concern is if Houston Road in 21 is going to be the main thoroughfare intersection in and out, then I feel like that improvement has to be done almost closer to the beginning, not halfway into the project.
What's the level of service currently right now?
It's not very good.
I could have told you that.
I gotta look it up.
Do you have a time frame on the project?
Well, hopefully we'll be receiving zoning approval in December, and then we'll move into land development, production of those documents. And then we hope to start construction approximately March of 2024, I think, somewhere around March of 24.
Completion date?
Ooh, that's a good question. Completion date.
2030.
2030 is in
2030?
yes.
Oh, and then, yeah, let's see what that.
So 21 in Houston right now, the worst movement, because it's unsignalized, is westbound. It's F, which is what one would expect. With the phase one with improvements, the overall intersection becomes B in the morning and C in the afternoon.
That includes all the
Signal and the 2 turn lane improvements.
and with the background traffic of what was going through the other projects, surrounding projects.
Correct. And that's at a 2027 phase one build out. So it's the existing traffic grown at the growth rate through that time, plus the offsites, plus the development. And with the improvements, it then becomes a B in the morning and C in the afternoon. That's with the signal and the turn lanes.
Did you say at 2027 or 2030?
2027 is after.
Because
the
it's
first
phase one, it's 2027.
So then when we get to 2030, it's going to be worse than B and C, right?
So at 2030 with full build out,
Right.
it's a C and C, which is an acceptable level of service.
Just like in school, 2-0 and go. Would you have, would,
6 to 7 year build out, so approximately 2030. So if we start construction in March 2024, 2030, 2031, construction would be fully completed.
would you entertain having the roadway improvements, instead of at 377, be at a lesser amount?
That's a tough question. There's financial modeling that I think would need to occur there to be able to determine.
Yeah, he's swallowing his tongue again.
What count are you envisioning?
I'm sorry.
What count are you envisioning with your,
I was thinking like 150 COs. after the first 150 COs, I'm just trying to think of, you said 650, I was thinking of a quarter, 25% was easy math. To say 150 would allow, after that 150 first CO, you would start the road improvements.
Commence upon receipt of the 150th CO, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
And I noticed something on the map. It says there's a stream buffer, it says 50-foot wide stream buffer, it says potential, which, it's on.
The zoning map, this
that
one?
map.
There we go, okay.
And then it has potential 100-foot wide stream buffer, I guess that's on the larger.
Shin Creek, that's correct, yes.
It says potential, which I'm kind of confused by the word potential.
Usually, we just have to do flow analysis as a drainage analysis on those. Those are typically dictated by jurisdictional code. So this is what we believe they are based on the information that we have at hand, but when we take it through land development permitting, those widths will be committed to. It's just, at the level we're at right now, we haven't done a full drainage analysis for the entire site and that drainage area. So that's just why we say potential. We're just acknowledging, hey, we think that there's a buffer here. There is. We just wanted to represent it in the zoning plan as well.
And the 50-foot is the smaller stream, doesn't require as much as.
Again, the 50-foot is just, it's all based on drainage area. How much water and runoff based on the existing topography in the surrounding area. And we don't mean for just this site. We mean for, like, regionally. Like, in this area, if there's 600 acres of drainage going to a creek, then that will dictate what the width of a buffer is. We just haven't gone into that level of engineering analysis, but based on our assumptions and our experience and the engineers that we have in-house, these are the buffers that we believe that they are on site.
And based on the permit that they get, dictates if it's a 50 or 100-foot buffer, correct?
That's right. When we submit, we'll have to demonstrate this drainage analysis within the plans and show that these are 50s and 100s.
And they dictate what that buffer is.
And it looks like, I mean, you're committing to, you've left space for 100 foot.
Because we believe there's a 100-foot buffer there.
While you're on this screen, can you expand on the section of your streetscape? Is that representative throughout the entire community? Or
It is,
one
yes.
section?
It's representative of all the new public streets on site, yes, and those are all public streets that are being proposed.
8-foot planting strip for a street tree. What's the distance on the trees? You're saying
I believe they're
just
50-foot spacings.
Okay.
And on your development summary, minimum lot width at cul-de-sac, there's just a discrepancy. It says 37 foot, and then in the written part, it says 40 foot. There's just a
Oh,
discrepancy.
okay, thank you. Thank you for
There's
that.
a discrepancy in it. What do you mean for that to be?
Paul,
I believe they're,
it could be in the cul-de-sac.
yeah, it's within the UDO, when you're on a cul-de-sac. I believe the distance is 37 feet in the UDO, but we'll just make sure that we get those numbers to correlate to each other.
Yeah, it says 40 in the, and it does specify where it's at in here.
Just because geometrically it's a pie wedge, the distance is different between lots on the pie wedge than it being a rectangular lot.
I think it's at the, I don't know where it is, but, well, but this will meet you'll make sure it meets the UDO.
It will meet minimum standards for the UDO, yes.
Any other questions or comments?
This one's more from Mark. So Mark, as those road improvements are made, so I'm trying to address the questions that Mr. Rogers had, just about Houston Road in general. So when the road improvements are made, is it up, when the company makes the road improvements, are they also responsible for adding signage along the road? For example, speed limit signs, slow down, curve, any of those types of signage?
They have to submit a signing package, line, drawings, everything else that meets the minimum standards for DOT. Some of them say like signal ahead or stop ahead. Some of those is based on what DOT mandates at that location. So it's up to them to figure that out. I mean, we can ask for additional signage, but typically DOT dictates all of that.
Okay.
That
Okay. That's a question.
And I know you were talking about, there is a new part of, Sanders Ridge on the other side of the creek. They're starting to grade out and build roads. It's not shown in here because it's
In this area?
Yes.
yes.
I can't tell on the map. There is a phase that's currently under construction. They're having to bridge the stream. But I don't know where it is in relation to your project. I'm assuming that's where it is.
We have no connections through here. There's a pedestrian connection to potentially provide some pedestrian connectivity to the future school, but no vehicular connectivity.
Yeah, they're working on it now because I drove down there. The road is actually connected by the church. It goes right by the church, which is something new. I mean, it wasn't that way the last time I went down there.
You could probably see it on the aerial. If you want to go back to your aerial, we might could see it there.
Well, that's kind of old for
Yeah.
have an older
Yeah.
aerial, sorry.
That's okay.
It's,
Yeah, the creek is where it will be adjacent to that portion where the creek is just on the other side of the creek.
so if, what about connections? Enough connections that you were talking about? I mean, y'all were talking.
That's under the TRC. If you look at the intersection at here, which is Road 20 and 22, from here up, there's only one connection. I was just bringing it to your attention, with is it Road 20 and 22 at that intersection? Yes. That one, you've got roughly 100 homes. I don't know if our TRC will allow for a single connection there to fire and EMS response.
Okay.
That's just something that engineers got to figure that out. And then on the right side as well, you've got one connection currently, and just be mindful of that. That's under TRC review. That would probably catch that.
Where's the one I apologize because on that side, yes, I see that, but on
If
the
you go
other,
Up.
that intersection right there, there's only one connection for those 100 lots right there. At that, during the age targeting.
well, technically there's two. I mean, doesn't it have access to that other connection on Weathers Creek down there? I mean, it's part of that overall subdivision, correct?
Here,
Right.
1 and 2.
Yeah, I'm saying, but going from there up, where there you've got serving 100 homes with only one access point.
It has that's part of that overall development on that side of the creek, correct? So it has access to the 2 points.
What I'm saying is, this is correct. You got 2 points of access from here up. If something happens to this creek here, and Johnny has an accident here, nobody can get to him. That's just an observation. That's just a TRC draw.
And the fire department takes into consideration creeks, that's an issue for them? Because if that's the case, then there's a creek crossing to that back side, and
What they're, if you have, correct, most of the time, the ISO rating has it to where you cannot, I think it's for different municipalities is different. But typically it's 30 lots that you can have only one, like a cul-de-sac could be serviced by only one, access point. If it's more than that, then you have to have 2 points of egress and ingress. And,
So I believe last year there may have been a state law that was passed to allow for up to 100 lots for
Okay.
one crossing, and I'm counting 94 at this location.
for a crossing, but for access points for ISO ratings, there may be, you know.
It is the same, it's 100 lots.
Is it?
It is.
Okay.
He is correct, it's a state law that was passed, because I think the ordinance used to have 30, and we had to amend it to reflect the 100. That's the new requirement.
Cool. You made the number.
I assume, is it, I counted 102, you said 105 earlier, the buffer probably takes care of those 2 lots, I guess.
It might.
If you hit the 99, you're.
I think it might, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
What about the one on the other side? The starter. Just saying that by the time they add their 25-foot buffer, their overage disappears.
Oh, you talking about over here?
Yeah.
There's 102, but mine,
Oh,
if they do
okay,
that.
that was the one you were talking about.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
thinking up
I
here.
was thinking up here.
Yeah, up here, there's less than,
There's less than 100.
Yeah, up here, there's, I think 94. I just did a quick
Okay.
count. So we're
So
under the
you're
100.
good there.
Yeah.
Oh, can you talk for a minute about the bed and breakfast and this care facility thing? What's up with that?
The intent here is for these to be single-family homes. I'm not sure where that may have, maybe it was within the UDO as an allowable use within the district?
It could have been, yes. Mm-hmm.
I thought
But
it
it
was
was, well, it's written in the conditions list, and I don't know if it was just picked
You don't
up
have any
there.
intention of doing that? I didn't-
No, no.
I just wanted to clarify.
No, it will not be bed and breakfasts throughout the community.
But we can remove those as.
That,
And it was bed and breakfast and residential care facilities, were those the two?
that can go. Yeah, that's fine. That might have been just regurgitating UDO language into the development conditions, so we can clean that up. That's fine.
And you are good with the 25-foot minimum buffer all the way around the,
So just for clarity, all of this property is being purchased by these homeowners. We have been working closely with the homeowners there and providing them additional property to make sure, I guess in best way to describe, we've been working with the homeowners already to incorporate buffer area. So I think the most restrictive for us would be to be putting a 25-foot buffer within these areas. Now, a 25-foot buffer around the entire community, I think that's something that we can certainly work through, but we've already been working with the property owners already on providing that distance that you're requesting.
yeah, that's what I was asking you about the whole thing. I mean, that's something tangible. We would know that you're willing to do the whole thing. Right now, we'd know that. Otherwise, we don't really know where you're putting what.
Right, and again, the property owners that are, I guess technically it's the petitioners. You can see that there is remaining land area buffering the properties that are being retained for residential purposes. Now, the 25-foot buffer that you're requesting today, we can do that. I think we can incorporate that around the entire site. What I'm asking for is for a little bit of flexibility within the areas that we've already been working with the property owners on.
Can
Is
I
it
clarify one point? So the area around their retained acreage of where they're keeping that property in those 2 portions he's pointing out, so the buffer is actually land that they'll be keeping. So we've buffered additionally and carved that off of what we're putting together here. So that buffer exists on their side of the property. So to add additional bufferage on our side would be.
We're now doing double buffer, essentially. We've already been working with the property owners at those locations to provide land area to keep the future homes away from their property that they're retaining. So while doing a 25-foot buffer, as you're asking for, around the entire property, we can do that. We're just asking for flexibility to not show that buffer around these properties in here.
So
That
this is this property that was split off from the
existing
what you're
property
saying?
owners. That's correct.
And it was agreed upon to add this amount to,
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're here tonight if you'd like to
okay.
ask.
And I guess, my question is, are y'all good with that? The people that are with the way it is on your area? Okay.
All right, the last question I have, I'm concerned with the density. You've got 276 acres, 629 homes, which is 2.27 per acre, units per acre. But you're not using 276 acres. You're making 115 of those acres open space. So that really only leaves 160.7 acres to put your homes on, correct? Which is
That's correct. However,
3.91 per acre.
if that's an interpretation of the code, but I don't believe that's how planning interprets the code.
Right.
We're excited to be doing smaller lots to reduce the amount of maintenance that homeowners have to do and providing ample additional open space well beyond the minimums that Troutman requires. So by taking the portion of property that we are choosing to develop and then applying DUA to that and excluding the 115 acres of open space that are well beyond the minimums, that's a much different way of interpreting DUA.
I get that, I understand that, but how much of that 115 open space is actually viable open space versus how much of it is retention ponds and other inaccessible areas by the homeowners?
That's a very difficult question to answer right now. I would not be able to answer that unless I had detailed construction drawings.
Okay. So
That's why we're entitling this for up to 629 lots.
Right.
That is, from a financial standpoint, what makes the project feasible while providing this level of amenitized areas on site.
And I also noticed that your homes are much smaller. Minimum is 1,200 heated square feet for a single story, and a minimum of 1,400 heated square feet for a two-story. Which is great. I mean, there's some people who want smaller homes, but I'm concerned about that amount of homes going on that small amount of acreage, personally.
So I think everyone has a different story about how they would like to live their life. Mine would be, I was very excited to purchase a half-acre lot, and the thrill of mowing the grass got old real quick. So we have seen in the market a lot of those half-acre lots are not ideal anymore. These smaller pieces of property that people can tend to and not spend their entire Saturday, cutting the grass is what people are asking for. And we're trying to provide a project here where their open space is not their yard,
Right.
but the open space that's incorporated into the community.
Yeah, I understand that. And I know exactly, I see where you're coming from, but I just need to let this board know how I feel about how this is being presented. Do you see the population? I mean, I'm looking at your numbers here. For families, new families, growing families, and then age targeted. How do you define the difference between new families and growing families? I understand age targeted because 55 is the age we always throw out there.
Sure. Well, the new families, the way at least we're programming it from an amenity standpoint, is the new family side will have a tot lot and small areas where you can go throw a baseball or kick a soccer ball. So, new families may be newly married people with no children that hope to have children one day. And then as they outgrow their home, they're able to move across the street into a larger home where they send their kids to middle school and high school. Those kids maybe eventually age out, they leave, and then the families move across the street and they just stay here forever.
Right. So are those, and I know this is hard, because I know you're sort of looking into the future, but do you have price points for each of these phases in your development?
That is not information that I know at this moment.
Okay.
The best I can probably say is everything's just really volatile right now. But I'm sure that there are
I can give a
numbers that,
generalization. I mean, across the board, today's prices, probably mid-3s to high 4s, across the spectrum of all three product lines.
Now, typically, are the new families gonna be the smaller home size than?
they would be.
And the age targeted may be similar to the new family size?
Would be similar, but probably less two-story product on that side. It would be primarily a one-story product.
Karen, did you say the 2 stories are 1,400?
In the
No,
notes, it's
that's
the minimum.
minimum.
It's minimum. Minimum.
I'm assuming that you've already contacted to get water and sewer?
Yes.
Do we have any more questions or comments?
No, I don't have any more.
All right.
Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you. Is there a motion for a recommendation regarding CZRM 22-09?
Going once. Going twice. Hang on.
Everybody talk at once.
Well, what do you pick?
Well, you want me to do it? I'll do it.
Let me hear what you think.
I make a proposal that we approve it.
What about the things that it's carried right down the middle?
What about the what?
Enough discussion at this point.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
What you got?
Yeah, we've been talking about it.
Well, as far as the motion, I mean, we've made several recommendations here as far as the buffers that were originally, we don't have a final map showing those buffers. Those notes need to be added and committed to.
In the minutes, you mean? Or do you want to see it on the site plan?
I mean, I have notes. I think I've written down everything that you
The
all.
motion needs to include these
Yeah.
notes
Yeah.
that we made reference to, from the church buffer to buffer around the entire community,
Mhm.
to the 150th certificate of occupancy. Correct.
Would you like me to read what I have?
please.
Yeah, that'd be
Okay.
great.
Let's see, applicant will provide a 25, and I'll have to wordsmith these, so forgive me for my rough language, but will provide a 25-foot project boundary buffer except where adjacent to Shin property, is that correct? Will provide a planted 25-foot buffer adjacent to mobile home park and church on Winifred. And I think planted was the word there that we wanted to make sure was included, correct? If that buffer was planted. They'll change 2-inch to 2.5-inch caliper on the landscape notes and the conditions. Staff will work with applicant on final amenities as listed in the conditions list. Road improvements to the Houston and 21 intersection will occur after the 150th CO has been issued. We will remove residential care facilities and bed and breakfast from the permitted use list. Did I miss anything?
Also, those 4 first items,
The first sentence?
Amenities.
yeah.
Standard
Amenities?
package, we said, right? As you're talking about the
Yes.
standard package? Did you get the standard
Yes,
package?
I apologize. In that amenities condition,
Right.
we will, hang on just a second. Had a lot of notes on that one. Condition 13, we will remove the sentence, a minimum of 3, and it will just read the following, it will read, the following amenity features pool cabana with restrooms, outdoor community gathering spaces, playgrounds, and pickleball. Those will be required, and then the rest we will leave the same. And then I have a note that we will add the list of amenities from the presentation slide. Make sure that's included in condition 13.
Yes. And you committed to putting the buffer, where the buffer is, to doing what the UDO shows as a 25-foot buffer with the plantings?
Yes.
That's on all of
Yeah.
it, correct?
We'll utilize the UDO as guidance for how to plant the buffer.
And if you can work with individual homeowners to maybe customize some things, or the church, they may want something a little bit different.
Lynn, do you know how the UDO defines the buffer as far as planting, when it comes specific to plant material? Are we just talking 2-inch maples, or are we talking evergreens?
It doesn't specify species, and I don't know if there's a requirement for hardwoods and evergreens. I'd have to look and see. I don't know off the top of my head, but I definitely can get you that information.
I know you're committing to what the UDO states, but if you go in there with just 2-inch caliper maples, and you don't mix in cryptomeria or arborvitae, you're gonna see right through that screen. So could there be some level to do a mix of plant material?
A mix of evergreen and deciduous plant material? Absolutely.
So that's a
can do a
screen
mix.
that you cannot see through.
Mr. Michelle, it says at maturity, screen must be completely opaque with no horizontal openings from the ground to a height of 8 feet. A minimum of 6 large maturing trees and 40 shrubs will be planted, each 100 linear feet of landscape screen area. It doesn't say what type of tree. It doesn't specify, like I said, evergreen or hardwood. Trees will be here we go, sorry. Trees will be a minimum of 50% evergreen and obtain a height at maturity of no less than 20 feet. Shrubs will be a minimum of 75% evergreen, so it does have that requirement.
So it sounds like we're covered.
We'll follow the UDO.
Thank you.
Anything else we missed?
Just the one thing that the company already did commit to, and that's not making that connection between Sanders Ridge not to be used for construction
Until
Until completion of the project.
until the completion of the project.
Okay, so there will be some sort of a barricade there until,
They just won't build it until
Okay.
such time as,
It actually has it in here.
the what now?
It actually had it in here, in their presentation. I read that twice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't think it was I don't remember reading it
I
in
didn't-
here.
Oh, I think I read it twice, but that's okay. I was
That's-
probably sleeping when I was trying to.
they'll barricade it
Yeah,
or
like an end of road barricade.
barricade or just
Yeah.
wait to connect until, okay.
Andrew, did you have a comment?
Well, I believe there was a condition agreed upon about 150 COs.
I said that one.
I didn't catch that.
He was sleeping.
Thank you.
So
Hang on,
May I ask a question to this one?
it's up to you.
About buffer.
Normally we won't, but I'm gonna allow you this time.
Currently behind Sanders Ridge, there are existing trees, 100-foot tall trees or whatever they are. Are those gonna be left there, or are they gonna be removed in this new smaller buffer we put in?
I think the intent would be for us to protect any existing vegetation within those. I mean, as a landscape architect, I'm kind of interested in keeping trees. I don't want to cut down anything that doesn't need to be removed, that's for sure.
Can we
Yeah,
word that?
we're not gonna clear something to then just plant it.
Can we,
Yeah, yeah.
can we maybe word that to where they're not having to remove?
The existing.
We can say undisturbed buffer, we can just put the word undisturbed in there.
Yeah, try to maximize existing vegetation.
And that's to their advantage too.
Oh,
It's to everybody's advantage.
Sure.
Okay. Got it.
So we can restate it, to approve it with those notes?
Yeah, yeah. So, you ready? You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So, now I lost my page. See, I talked too long. I recommend the approval of rezoning case CZRM 22-09 as presented with the following notes, conditions that we just went through and summarized. And everybody heard it, and everybody knows it's there. And we trust them with their lives, right? Okay, now, we got to vote on it.
Is there a second?
Maybe not.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right.
Ayes have it.
Now we need a consistency statement.
I make a motion regarding the consistency of this action, that the rezoning is consistent with the Troutman strategic plan and the future land use map, as it will serve to guide residential development in the scale and density prescribed in these policy documents by allowing appropriate medium-density residential development and their customary accessory uses. Finally, the requested rezoning is considered reasonable in the public interest as it proposes to allow the retention of residential development in areas of Troutman and where it is appropriate.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time this evening.
Okay, item 7B on our agenda is the future land use map update. Consideration and possible recommendation of updates to town's future land use map. We're gonna hold off just a second, let everybody leave, that wants to leave. Yeah, go ahead. So we're gonna take a 5-10 minute break.
That's what I thought.
Well, I would say yes, yes. Chair votes. Yeah, the chair votes.
Just forgetting this.
That's what I make sure some committees.
nobody here but us chickens.
Exciting,
During a 5-minute break. Yeah, we're on a break, yeah.
I have one right here.
She'll catch you, man. Okay.
Well, my packet copy.
Somewhere in the Raleigh area, we're trying to.
Oh, and you can have this too. That's my copy of that.
But I think the way you're talking is
I
maybe.
think the big ones are the original one. You're right. Y'all ready to go? You ready to go?
Everybody back.
Everybody's gone? Oh. Sorry, Mom.
All right.
Crazy stuff.
Ready?
I guess we need to wait for Kim. She's not back.
Okay. We'll wait for Kim.
What? What is it?
Yeah, two town council. We got one person.
Well, he was the committee chair for our next topic, so.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm just here as an interested citizen.
Yeah, yeah, right.
What the heck?
I mean, I believe it if that's.
I don't have anything else better to do.
I'm waiting for you.
That one? That's the current one. Okay. You ready, Kim? Okay. Item 7B on our agenda is the future land use map update, consideration and possible recommendation of updates of the town's future land use map. I will now turn it over to Lynn.
Thank you. As you all are aware, we have been working on updating the land use map. Just to give you guys some background, the council directed staff to start working on this project last January during their strategic planning session. This was something that they wanted staff to address. So in April, the council appointed a subcommittee, which began meeting in May. We held our first advisory committee meeting. We met monthly through the summer. We actually had our last meeting last week. Karen Van Vliet represented the planning board, and Mark Michelle was on that committee as well. The chairman of that committee, Mr. Bryant, is here, Paul Bryant, this evening. He chaired it and led that committee for us and did a great job. But in addition to those monthly steering committee meetings, we also held 2 public input sessions. The first one of those was in June. We held the second one in September, where we asked the community to come in, look at the map. The first meeting was for them to comment on the current map, give input, tell us what their concerns were. We took that information back to the committee and continued to work on it. And then in September, we presented our draft map. From that meeting, we had some additional comments, which we again took back to the committee and made some final changes. So here we are this evening. We are presenting you all with that draft map, and we are looking for a recommendation so that we can forward this on to council for review and hopefully approval. But council, some of the things they asked the committee to look at was specifically to take a look at the commercial industrial areas on the town map, specifically those around exit 45, as well as some commercial industrial uses happening on 42, and just the changes that were happening in those areas. They also wanted us to look at Barium Springs. This was before that Barium Seasons, or what's now being called Wakefield Village, was approved, but we all knew that was coming. They also asked us to look at residential densities. This has been an issue for the town and the community, and they wanted us to look at that in terms of relation to of the availability of utilities. And the last thing is they really wanted staff to have a map that they felt like had been vetted by the community, by the planning board, by council, that we could use as a tool to objectively look at all of these development applications that are coming into our office. This is the current map. Randy Farmer, Randy asked me for a copy of this, but I just wanted everybody to kind of see where we started from. The areas, like I was saying before, that we looked at were the Barium property. We also looked at exit 42, exit 45 in this area. Then there were some other areas on the map that we looked at as well, and I'll go over those. One thing we did is we did take a survey. It was a very short survey. We posted it online. We also had it at our first open house. And we did get strong support for changes that were occurring in Troutman, which was a bit surprising. That there were a lot of people who filled out that survey who said they supported the changes that were occurring. We had strong support for improved infrastructure and town involvement with funding of that infrastructure. We had support for more open space, support for commercial development on Main Street and near interchanges. People want more retail uses. They want more restaurants. They want commercial, but they also want better roads. I think this is something that you all hear frequently. So the committee made decisions based on all the information that we gathered at these community input sessions, as well as just sitting around talking about the development that's happening in the community and looking at the map. So in addition to updating the map, there were committee members. We agreed that, the map's really not that bad. It doesn't need to be overhauled. We need to just identify those areas that we need to tweak and make changes to, and I think the committee did a great job of doing that. But they felt like something that was really important was to look at the definitions in our strategic plan and update those land use definitions. So that is what we focused on, and that's what we are presenting you with this evening. So on the overhead now is a copy of the updated map. And just to kind of walk you through some areas that we made changes to, and this is on the next slide, but I'll try to remember it. Barium, this is an easy one. We had to create a mixed-use category for Barium. Previously, this showed as employment center. I think at one time when that strategic plan was first looked at in 2018, it was assumed that there might be industrial development going up towards Statesville, and we would have more industry, light industry, and employment here. That has not happened. What has happened is Barium was sold, and this property is being developed, as you all know, for mixed-use development. Another change that we made was in this area here. This was shown as rural residential previously. We felt like that the changes to Murdoch Road were just going to continue up to exit 45 because trucks and people can easily come off of exit 45 down into this area. But we didn't go, this is heavy industrial. I think originally we felt like that was the right use for here, but after discussing that and getting feedback from the community, the committee decided to change this to light industrial and employment center, which is a really good compromise. Another thing we did, the old map, which let me go back and I can show you. As you can see, it did not include this area here. This is 77. We ended the map on, I believe that's Hoover Road, if I'm not mispairing. Is that Hoover? Duck Creek, thank you. We ended the map there. But the committee agreed that they wanted to include all of this in our land use map. So we added land uses that were consistent with adjacent properties and some things going on in the area. Highway commercial there along the interchange, that industrial in this area, and then your rural residential as it got down more into Troutman. We also looked at Eastway. There were some comments from the committee members that they really felt like our downtown needed to be town center. It was kind of a mix of town center in some areas, office institutional in some areas. So we made a change to bring all of Eastway into town center to make it a true downtown area. Another area we made some changes to was the intersection of Perth and State Farm Road. Those areas were originally shown as medium density residential. We brought it into that lake use districts. So that was a change we made. So those are some of the major changes. I think those are the majority. We also made some small changes in here to some pieces that just didn't fit, as well as along East Mambo, where we took that piece that the school owns that fronts East Mambo, that was shown as civic use, and put that back into rural agriculture. Residents along that roadway feel very strongly about preserving that road, and the committee wanted to honor that. So again, this is just a list of those changes. I don't think I left anything out. So that's it. That's the map. Excuse me. Definitions, I apologize. We did go through the definitions. We added a definition for mixed use. We added the associated zoning districts to the definitions. That was something the committee felt like would be helpful if you could go to the land use map or those definitions and see this is the land use and these are the zoning categories that correlate there. We added a minimum lot size to high density residential that did not exist before. We also reduced the number of units per acre in medium low density residential. We see medium density residential a lot. That's one thing I wanted to point out. There's a lot of medium density residential on this map. This light yellow is medium density residential. As you all know, the majority of applications that come before us seem to be medium density residential. That's that currently 3 to 4 units per acre. The committee reduced that number to 2 to 3. So one of the things that we are hearing from the community is they're wanting to reduce densities in residential districts. So that's one thing the committee wanted to make sure that they focused on and included. So we did that. And then that office civic, we separated those. It used to be one land use. We took those and separated them. So you had because civic uses typically are things like churches and schools, parks, government buildings. So we wanted to make sure that there was a land use specifically for those, so you weren't putting an O&I district in a neighborhood where you might have a school or a church, and made civic a separate land use. Those are the major changes that were made. The definitions are in your packet, as well as the land use map. And again, Mr. Bryant's here. And just to let you know, next steps after this evening, after hopefully you all make a recommendation for the planning, for the council, we will take this before that board on November the 10th. So if you have any questions of me, I'm happy to answer those. And Mr. Bryant can probably add to the conversation as well.
On the definitions, there's at 9 high density, it says typically greater than 4 units per acre of land.
I'm
Would that
sorry.
need to say 3 now?
Where is this?
Number 9.
High density?
Yeah, it did say 4, but now we go from 2 to 3, and then from 3 to 4, what category is that in?
Good point. Yeah.
Should we just lower that? I mean, it can be more than that, but that would be the,
Change it to 3.
Yeah.
and can you go back to the map? Current map, Lynn?
Yes.
I mean, not the current one, but the proposed one, the draft. One of the things I did notice was there's some more medium density, yeah, there's more medium density, right up there above the school, where
Above which school?
where the proposed school,
Oh, okay.
near where we were,
In this area out here.
yes,
That's the school.
above that was low density, now it's medium density,
Here?
yes. And then that brown area was medium density, now it's high density.
I think it was low on this map, wasn't it?
It is,
It
but
is
the
low.
new one is got medium.
Okay.
What was the reasoning behind that?
I do not recall. Do you remember that conversation?
So,
Here.
Randy, you're speaking specifically, why is that medium density?
Yeah, why did that get bumped up?
Everything in Troutman was originally suburban residential which has morphed into medium density. That was zoned or planned or seemed to be suburban residential as the town grew out. It's just changed from suburban residential zoning to medium density, the future land use projection.
And we did change the definition of medium density to 2 to 3 units per acre, so really we aren't changing.
Well, you are some.
The density is the same.
I mean, I just, well, no, it's 3, well, 2 is
Well, that's
low
the
density.
conundrum that we have tonight.
I mean, is there a reason
Is
why
density.
we decided to make more area available for, that's what basically we've done, make more area available for medium density, which 2 was the maximum they could put on it, now they can put 3. And then there's a high density, but that's, I'm assuming that might be because it's right there at the school. I don't know, I'm just asking. There's a little long patch of high density going up to proposed school area, or the future school area, that wasn't,
Okay,
that wasn't there before.
It was not there.
Yeah, look, go back to the other one.
yeah.
You're talking about right here.
And then all that was, that's green up there above is you just got the smaller amount of medium density now. It's got, I mean, I don't know if that's because of the school or,
Because Sanders Ridge was approved and it exceeds that, whatever change in density you had for it.
is that Sanders Ridge?
That's Sanders Ridge.
But it's not high density, is it?
If high density is 3 units per acre now, it is.
But it's not, I don't think it is currently, not before tonight.
Draft map.
Yeah, that Sanders, not Sanders Ridge, well, that is Sanders Ridge. And to the south of that is Sutter's Mill. Is Sutter's Mill medium density or is it high density?
Well, I mean, they're already approved, so they're not, that's not gonna change anything.
Right, it's not going to change anything.
Unless they come back and decide they wanna do more.
Well, yeah, I think to Andrew's point, though, the high density is 4 units per acre,
Or-
and those developments meet that standard. So
The high
that's why
density.
that was brought into the high density.
High
Because
density.
technically, based on our definition, that's what it is.
High density will be 3 or more. There's no
The
limit.
conversation from the community and from our leadership has been, and correct me if you've heard differently, that there needed to be high-density pockets available to build on in close proximity to our, to the interstate, to exit 42 to exit 45. So that connection there, which you see in the dark brown as high density, is pretty much the recommendation of the community. Let's keep it down in close proximity to exit 42. And there's, you see it on the map.
So that one is, that is currently Sanders Ridge?
And looking at the map, I don't think it is.
Or it's vacant?
Looking at the map, you don't see it, what,
Well,
So next week, we're gonna have
this
a,
isn't.
next month, we're gonna have a rezoning for high density right there.
in the,
Yeah, that's not in the city limit outline.
oh,
The-
no, it's a long way from it.
The boundary. There you go. How did we come up with a boundary?
So,
Troutman planning boundary? We've extended it a little bit. I mean, what are we allowed to do?
The planning boundary, you're talking about the ETJ?
No, the planning boundary.
Well, were you talking about where we expanded it over
Yeah,
in
I
this
mean,
area here?
What are the
Yeah.
rules? Of how,
Well,
we
it's
can-
it's
based on-
land use, and it's
Based on
just,
population, isn't it?
well, not land use. This is just a land use map. So we brought this into our planning area.
But I mean, if it was
the
outside,
planning
of-
boundary is an interlocal agreement between Troutman, Mooresville, and Statesville that we're gonna plan this area, you plan that area, and we'll stay up to.
Heck, we almost to Salisbury, I mean, do we,
But I don't think, but I don't know that we encroached on anybody's planning boundary doing this, if I'm not mistaken, but the land, I mean, we're just showing this as if it were to come into Troutman, that's what the future land use would be.
If I remember correctly, exit 45, we basically said that one of the first meetings was, we need to claim it or otherwise Statesville will.
That's at 45, yeah.
At 45 in that upper, where we extended it up into here. We had to
So
lay some stakes in the ground, so to speak, to say this is where.
that land at 45, which we have a vision of being used at some point in the future in this way, if it comes into Troutman. It is not in Troutman's ETJ, it is county, it is not in Statesville's ETJ. So if we have the resources and if a buyer would like to voluntarily annex or have the land annexed into Troutman versus another municipality, we have a plan that says we'd love to have you. And that we would then have a more commercial and more industrial opportunity at exit 45, and that we don't automatically just not show up and miss the opportunity that that exit presents to everything around it. And Troutman is very much around exit 45, as is Statesville and county areas to the east and south of 45, east and south of 77.
I mean, that's, I'm gonna yield. I'm gonna, and I'm gonna ask this question here, has Statesville been aware of this new map?
I haven't showed it to them. Have you?
No, sir, no. Yeah,
Okay.
and yeah, Kim had a good point. I think our annexation agreement has expired with Statesville. We no longer have that agreement. It expired, it was not renewed.
Okay.
Cool.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Well, an annexation agreement between towns basically is an agreement where we say, we as Troutman will not annex past this point, and Statesville said we will not annex past this point. So basically, it's an agreement kind of saying, this is where, you know, our future is, this is where yours is. We had one with Statesville, and it expired. So we currently do not have one. So that does not, no longer dictates where we can annex with Statesville. Correct. There's one on the other side of town.
Okay. The light industrial, I noticed. Oh, I'm just asking questions here, and I agree with the light industrial on a part of this, but there's some that I don't foresee. Some homes in there that probably aren't gonna, unless they give them enough money, they're not gonna sell it. So I'm a little wondering about a portion of this, if that's practical or where we came up with that line. Taking this whole area versus.
That whole area, I can't speak for the north side of that. I know for the south side, this area right here is gonna be that color, not that color. But I mean, like I said, that's, I don't know for the north side over here, that's between what they want it to grow up to be, and that's employment center, light industrial.
Which I'm good with that on part of it, but some of this I'm wondering if, I mean, this is already houses built and
I think this
apartments.
parcel here and these parcels here have already been sold or under contract right now.
You might want to either show that up there on the map, or maybe Lynn can point to it so we can see what you're talking about.
Go to the,
I don't have a clue what you're talking about.
Are you talking about right here?
yeah,
Right there.
And you're talking about
There's
these
some
here.
smaller lots in
To the
next,
right.
to the right side that are, I mean, they're
No.
that and, but further over that are,
Right there.
you know, that light gray area right there, right? That there was a lot of conversation and discussion, both community and with the committee. And we've all talked about Murdoch Road and industrial over as long as I've lived in town. And probably, I'm sure, before that. That area, now that the Wakefield Village is adjacent to it in the blue, may very well become more desirable for residential, perhaps even multifamily residential, in close proximity to exit 45 and into employment centers. Right across the street, there's a pretty big employment center, like 1 million square feet. And by the vision or the discussion that took place with the community, is there's an opportunity there for employment center / light industrial, and perhaps a new rebirth and an interest for residential because it's on the backside and adjacent to Duck Creek. All good access to 77. Now, this is not a forever map. The one that we were looking at a moment ago from 2018-19 only lasted us for the town for 4 years. So we were charged with trying to create that vision for what it will look like 5 years out from today. And it's going to be changing dramatically as Wakefield comes in and becomes a more important influencer in the future of that whole area out there. So how do we draw a map to, you know, tell that story?
So, I mean, just hearing you say that, the previous map, from my point of view, lasted 4 minutes. And every time somebody brought a proposal, we changed it. And even with what you're saying there, we need to decide whether this map is driving Troutman or Troutman is driving this map, right? And by Troutman, I mean the development's happening in the area. And it seems like for my whole time that I've been a part of this, the developments, the people that come in here and say, hey, I'd like to do this, they're the ones driving the map. Right? And the map is not driving them at all. We're just changing the map to reflect what's happening rather than trying to make a map that drives what's happening.
May I continue to have a...
Yeah, go ahead. We're just...
So you're absolutely right. But this is a the committee talked about this, the community talked about it, is that it's a two-step process. The map can drive the future, and it can be the guide that planning and zoning needs to have the conversation with the developers. But if you don't change your UDOs, then the map loses the ability to help direct the future growth of the town. The UDOs currently allow, who would not agree that 8 houses on an acre is not high density? But yet, the gentleman stood here tonight and told you, no, that's medium density. The UDO must change if you want to rewrite the town's definition of medium density. And this land map, this is a futuristic, broad brush look at the future, and it can't change the UDOs.
I had to check myself as we were having these conversations too in this committee, because this is a broad stroke, this is not zoning, and that came up multiple times where this is not a zoning map and this is not changing the UDO. To have this mean something, we have to take it to that next step of the UDO.
For sure, but even...
Otherwise, this doesn't...
Even in the conversation where the UDO is acceptable, right, and that's happened over and over, where we have something that is rural preservation, right, and we have flipped it to heavy industrial because a developer came in here and said they'd like to, right, because, I mean, they're on two complete opposite ends. And the map reflected one thing, and we went to it's happened in densities and other stuff too, but, you know, I think what you mentioned earlier, if we can, if there is will to change minimum lot sizes within those, zonings, that would be great, but I don't know how we should do it otherwise, right? But what Karen was driving to is a very good point, but I've never had any ability to get anywhere arguing that, hey, you're only using half the land because it's only half usable, right? Which drives density way up, but that's not the way they want to look at it. Even to the point we've had developments recently, one that did not come through, but they had bought two portions of land that weren't even connected to each other, and they were trying to use those two together to argue their density, right? So, I mean, maybe we can write language in the UDO that fixes that, but at this moment, it's hard for me to see a path to that.
But this right here, I mean, this is kind of what we're gonna use for guideline. I mean, it ain't in concrete, but we kind of wanna, if we approve it the way it is here, this is kind of saying, okay, this is what we wanna see here. And we're gonna use it as a fairly strong guide as to what we allow.
Yeah, I mean,
Uses.
that would be great going forward. I don't think that's what we've done
No.
historically at all. But Randy, unless I'm misinterpreting what he's saying, in order to use it as a guide, we gotta put teeth into the UDO. Right?
True.
One thing we're gonna have, we challenged, out of this committee, for land to write a new text amendment to the UDO around open space, and how we calculate that. Which is, brings up what Karen talked about. All that unusual stuff can't be used as part of that. We've got a text amendment that'll be coming back towards you guys and us. And hopefully that's the first year.
How do we define unusable? All the buffers for
Like
streams.
wetlands.
Yeah.
Wetlands can't build on anything, that's why should you get it counted as open space? You know, they calculate their land, they use a total, and yet you can't build there anyhow, so that puts them all closer.
Yeah.
Because they're counting all this land that you, when they're total, that you can't use anyhow. And so that was something we're going to do a text amendment, has come out of this. And the other one is this, they can't clear cut the whole place, the whole, development before they get to, you know, they have to do it in phases.
Yeah.
In case they walk away, we have a lot of clear away, like Austin happens right now with this.
It might be, maybe the town council could be asked about it, or, the town attorney could be asked. Previously, when we brought that up, it sounded like there'd been some court cases in 2015 in North Carolina that the developer won, saying they could use all of that land and make that calculation, right? They didn't have to do it on the per acre size. So that's
Basically,
what.
net versus gross density, yeah.
Correct, yeah, so, her name escapes me, but the planner that was here when I originally moved to Troutman, she and I had that discussion, and she had found what those court cases were.
Erica.
Yeah.
And we understood that is, what she was saying to us is not entirely true. So we've asked her to look at that.
Yeah, I'm just on, I've never heard that before, but that doesn't mean that, you know, it's not, but we need to research it. Yeah.
And I can't speak to what legal may have or may not have said, meetings that I wasn't in attendance at.
Okay, that was developing the original plan is when that came up.
Yeah, I do know that towns in North Carolina have, I don't know how many, but have changed their zoning to, it's all the same, 1 acre, 1 house. And that's slowed down dramatically what's going on in their town, which was their goal. Now, how long will they keep that restriction in place? Anybody's guess. They might get hungry in 2 years and wish they had kept it at a half acre instead of an acre. But right now, nothing has been built in this town, I don't believe, in the last 4 or 5 years that is on half-acre lots or even on quarter-acre lots. A specific measurement of 10,000 to 20,000 square feet per lot. Everything has been medium density, but 4, 5, 8 houses to an acre, which is not my definition of medium density. It's the developer's definition of medium density. And to your point, it seems like the folks are coming to our town because there's so much wiggle room in our plan. And how do we slow it up a bit if that's the goal?
I think we need to slow it up. I think we just need to do smart growth. I mean, that's why this plan and this map is going for. We need to make sure that we strategically place development where it needs to be.
Sure.
And, you know, I can, you know, just looking at it here, you know, this is a map, this is gonna be a snapshot in time, and, you know, it was said today that, you know, next month we'll have if we adopt it today, there'll be a change next month. And it's gonna be, you know, how it was tonight. They were trying to cram a lot of lots into a very questionable lot size. And I mean, you know, they did it very well, yet they were trying to maximize. They're here for money. I mean, they're not here to provide a service for us. They're not here to provide a house. They're here to make money. And, you know, my personal opinion is, I think if you smart growth and you tell them you gotta have acre lots, it's gonna stop to where you can pick where your traffic's going, where your amenities are going, where your utilities are going. Because right now, Troutman is developing faster than they understand. Because I was trying to figure out if there was any TIAs that Mr. Goddard had reviewed in preparation for this one. Because I know he's been here in front of this board several times, giving TIAs. And so I know that he's probably, you know, if we didn't give him any that are in that area that could be incorporated into what he did today, he's just out of it. So I mean, that's where, I don't know without going back and seeing what's presented in growth in this area, how those are gonna be, plus the background traffic and all of that stuff. I think we're growing awful fast. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, and how many people are up here? 6, 7 in the room, 10. Everyone has a different definition on smart growth, and everyone has a different definition on affordable housing, and nobody can really tell us what over 55 targeted means.
That's why, you know,
it's all marketing stuff.
That's why we have everybody's opinion up here, and everybody gets a vote.
Yeah, I was timing the speaker tonight, and he spent the bulk of his time making his presentation to you, talking about amenities. And we're talking about growth in buildings and homes for people. And he was pitching fire pits and racquetball courts.
Yeah.
Parking lots for food trucks.
For the majority of the time, trying to present a pretty picture versus, you know, help us get the best we can for the town.
Now, so are you gonna be an advocate for November the 11th? The shot at that?
Ask the question again?
So with the presentation that was presented tonight, in your opinion, and having a vote on council, would you say that this was gonna pass or fail?
I believe that the product that we have put together and bring to you tonight.
No, I'm talking about what was presented tonight by Mr.
Oh, from this gentleman.
Yes, from this gentleman.
It doesn't fit this plan.
Okay.
I have a question or a comment. I think a lot of the frustration comes is that we're told that we can control NCODT. I understand. We're told that you can't stop anyone from selling their property. But the end result is what we got with the traffic. I mean,
there's ways around traffic, and there's ways around how you can do smart development. And without seeing a TIA, John Goddard is a great engineer. I have reviewed hundreds of his work. He's got more smoke and mirrors than you can shake a stick at. I guarantee you that what he's presented on his TIA there's something, he typically does internal capture or the trip generation a little bit different. And, I don't know how he's doing that. That's why I asked, which category did he put all three of those in? He used the same thing. I think his trip distribution is wrong, because 15% were going south and it didn't go nowhere. It just dissolved, and he didn't look at the other intersections. In my opinion, I think that it is he sealed something that could be reviewed. I mean, should be reviewed. And nothing against him. I mean, like I said, I've reviewed a lot of his documentation. But I have questions about that part of it.
At that point, the more of these we review, the more I think I'm ready to helicopter to get to work.
I guarantee you that the TIA that he presented, I mean, level C and D for that one intersection, that might be great, because he did improvements. But there was 13 other intersections that didn't get 0 improvements.
Right.
And I mean, if you got a site that's going into it, is
4 mile past his radius and he didn't even look at them. Right.
if you've got there's no turning lanes on the main drag that he had, Weathers Creek.
Yeah.
There's no turning lanes to it. So I mean, that's just my opinion. How can you have turning lanes on one intersection that half the majority of the growth, goes to, and you gotta do improvements there, but 100% of the volume has to go to an entrance, and you don't do any improvements? I mean,
I don't mean to interrupt, but
We gotta
we
get back on
probably shouldn't be
target.
talking about a case that we already decided on and the applicant isn't
that's
here.
fine, we're on, yep,
Yes.
that's it.
Kind of off
Sorry, bud.
target there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we need to get back on target.
Anyway,
There's probably no one here to speak for a public meeting, but there might be. We have a few people. But I want to open it up for public comment. I think anyone. Okay, we'll close the. Was there any? Okay, we'll close the public comment. We got to officially do this. Okay, is any more comments from the board about this?
Yes.
And I do want to point out that, I mean, if you all are not ready, if you feel like you need more time to review this map, that is fine. It's a lot of information, so.
I would suggest reading the definitions if you haven't, because there was not just color coding the map, the definitions were changed to help support that color coding that we went through. Because we kept coming back to that on the density. On the Lake District, we removed restaurants can't be put into that Lake District when that was previously in the definition. So the verbiage there was changed to help support those changes. I would read those definitions more in depth to just understand the changes on it. Because even though the color might have changed, the definition actually is supporting more of what we're discussing as far as density or limiting density.
Yeah, I did read them, and I did see some stuff I really liked.
clarification. I think it was a daunting task that y'all did. I don't think it was, the end result's good.
An important point out of the 3 low density, medium density rural preserve is that the word cluster was removed from the definition. And the word cluster is what have allowed us to, the town, to accept smaller lot sizes. And now that that's removed from the definition of our primary residential housing areas, detached, single family, no clustering, then the next step is to strengthen the UDO to address the issue that Ms. Van Fleet brought up earlier this evening.
What is, and I probably should know this, but what is the definition? Okay, I know what's written here. As far as, we got mixed use and mixed residential. Okay, so mixed use is a combination of homes and businesses, correct? Mixed residential, what does that mean? Other than high density,
Oh, well,
what does
typically-
mixed residential mean, other than high
Yeah,
density?
typically mixed residential means you have different housing types in one development. So you, for instance, could have a section of a development that's single family, and then you can have an area that's townhomes, or you could even have an apartment complex. So that's what mixed residential is. And it could also mean that you have different lot sizes, different densities, where, like the development we looked at tonight, all those lots are not the same size, the densities are going to be different. So that was why that became a mixed residential project.
They didn't have to have apartments, townhomes, and houses?
No, it can be a different size, single family, different lot sizes, different densities. Mhm. Yeah.
Did you want to change anything on here?
I was just asking why, I mean, maybe it's because of where it's at. Y'all could probably answer that better as to why this, much of it got changed. Is it location? Is it water and sewer capacity, or?
Just talking about the area
I can't see which section.
north of the proposed high school, northwest, that whole area right there.
Is that being more of a buffer or transition between the red and the green? Providing that transition?
That may have been what it was, and it also looks like we maybe are using, I don't know what road that is. Is that Weathers Creek Road? Is a boundary line there? But it could be that if these higher density uses here, that those were just, it made more sense for them to be a higher density. Go back to that. Yeah, because we had low density right up against industrial and highway commercial, which didn't make a lot of sense. And I think the committee decided to pull that medium density residential into this area to be compatible with this. And then you had the school in this area, and it kind of buffered it.
Yeah.
So I think that was the reasoning.
We hadn't done anything low density in this town for years. So, and medium density or town residential or mixed residential is pretty much where we are today.
Yeah, and the developments happening out there, Weathers Creek, I think Sanders Ridge, I'm thinking this was meant to be here maybe, because I think that's Sanders Ridge. So I think that might
Well,
just
that's
be
Sanders
something.
Ridge going into the high school.
Yes. Oh, this is?
Yeah.
So that piece is Sanders Ridge.
So that's not, but
Or
that's
medium
So something's not
adjacent to-
right.
That's been annexed into the town, though.
Yeah, the town limit line, something
Yeah,
we need
that's
to
not
look
in
at
the-
that.
Limit line would be different.
I'm sorry.
We need to
But it
look
could
at
be
that.
a satellite. Doesn't have to be
Yeah.
contiguous.
I'm
We'll look at
thinking
the line.
I'm thinking this is Sanders Ridge right here.
It's the one beside it. I believe.
Yes.
So Sanders Ridge is medium density, which is adjacent to the high density
Yeah,
residential.
I think that was just a
That's brown.
mapping. I think we need to just take that brown and put it on Sanders Ridge right here. I think that's what happened.
Well, Sanders Ridge is half acre lots.
Is it? Well, I wonder why this is, I don't know what happened there.
But I think that there was conversation.
Sanders
and
Ridge is
agreement that
half
there's
no,
an
they're not half an acre.
Opportunity for apartments. there
Sanders
near the high
Ridge
school.
is not half an acre.
They're pretty close to it.
Sanders Ridge, maybe a quarter, but I'd be shocked if they're half. Are they, what is that zone, Deirdre, do you know?
It's not conditional, it's RT.
Oh, it was
It's
RT,
so
which
the
is
minimum is
quarter.
Quarter.
It's a
Quarter acre.
Quarter acre, because it's an
Yeah.
older development, even though they're just now building out. It's been around for a long, long time when
So it's-
densities.
Which is 4 units an acre.
And it actually has to be on a quarter acre lot.
It does, which works out to be 4 units an acre if you don't take out infrastructure. I mean, typically it's going to be a little bit less, but
Yeah, and you wouldn't be able to use necessarily unusable land so much on that. You might could use a little bit in the back or something, but.
we can look at that area here. If you all guys are comfortable with, I mean, technically, we can look at Sanders Ridge and see, but if you want to remove that, we can. And I'm not Sure.
I mean, if it makes sense, I'm okay with it, but
We
if
can look at
it's,
it and
if
see.
it's putting it right, if you're putting it basically beside quarter acre lots, which that's not the same as the 2.27 tonight. That's not at all the same. The quarter acre lot's a much bigger lot. Even though, because we're counting total density.
It's 10,000 square feet, roughly. And some of those lots at 65, I'm assuming those will be 6,500 square foot lots, probably. I would imagine, because they're usually 65 by 100.
I'm just asking if that, will that match okay beside that? Is that okay, or, I mean, I kind of understand wanting to have some high density maybe near the school. Of course, this other's near the school also. It's not that far.
Well, I think that was the thought, it was higher density housing, multifamily housing adjacent to the school, townhouses, etc.
I doubt Sanders Ridge people will be very happy with that.
We can remove it. We can just leave Sanders Ridge in medium density and remove, I'm not sure, like I said, I'm not sure why that brown's there.
Okay.
We can, that's what this meeting is for.
And we have the high density near here, adjoining that, so it's close by.
Do you want to leave it or remove it?
Well, I mean, I'm just one person. I say remove it, but that's according to what everybody else feels.
Would you agree that while you would prefer not to see it as high density brown, that medium density reflecting what you've currently got at Sanders Ridge would be acceptable in this particular, that
Yeah,
piece?
medium, yeah, oh yeah.
Let's change it to medium density.
What about this piece right here? Is that, I'm not sure what that is.
That's the same as it was, I think.
That was high density before?
Is that
Okay.
the new map?
That's the old one.
That is,
Oh,
hold on, I can
wait a
get it
minute.
up on the screen. No, because it was medium density here.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
It was-
we can't look at individual parcels and.
Well, I was just wondering why, yeah, okay.
I mean, it's adjoining, high density, I'm okay with.
And it's outside the town limits.
Yeah, it's not developed, but it's right beside high density. I don't really,
We'll just, we can just leave it, on that side is high density, that's fine.
So what are we gonna change again?
I think that we were,
That one brown one up there, we're
Just
gonna
this
change that
piece.
to medium?
yes,
Do we need to vote on
yes, please.
that? Well, I mean.
you'll
I
just do a
wanna
show
get
of
vote
hands
from
on
you.
that?
Huh?
No, we don't have to do official vote on that, do we?
Well, I don't know.
You can either do it individually or at the end when you make a motion to, if you decide to make a motion to approve the map, you can just make the motion that we approve the map with the following changes.
Oh, okay.
You can do it that way.
We sort of need to know what everybody feels about it, though.
Well, then maybe, I agree
Change,
with that.
change it.
You guys agree?
That's fine.
Okay, it sounds like everybody agrees, so we can.
All
We'll
right.
make the motion and change it back to a
Medium density.
medium density.
Now, the other, does that make more sense? Like you've changed all this to medium there at Weathers Creek, or?
Man, it gives you a transition.
That gives a
going-
better transition? Okay. What about some of the other? I'm a little mixed on the, up here on part of it, I'm not on, but like you said, it doesn't change the zoning. It just,
Right.
people are still gonna live there, and as long as they don't ask for
This is not
rezoning.
a zoning map, it has nothing to do with
Yeah, I
zoning.
know, so,
In fact, yeah, well,
I'll tell you, honestly, when we were going through this conversation, I was all about having, it's zoned RA right now. and I was all about having more low-density housing in that area, just because I'm more pro-housing than I am manufacturing, since we have manufacturing and or some type of industry at both. So for me, the compromise was this light industrial employment center. Because of the argument that that new Wakefield Village is up there, and that might give more of a transition coming out of the Wakefield.
Okay.
And it's not, like I said, it's, you know, if somebody wants to go in there and put in a housing development, they can, because
They can do it by right.
they can do it by right, yes.
Was there any other things that anybody saw that you have questions about or comments?
I guess, crazy, but is the fairground still the fairgrounds?
Yes, right now it is. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's, what's it showing as here?
Civic.
Okay. I mean,
But the two lots to the left, you got Murdoch, where it says, the one that says where the K is for Murdoch. Looking at this right now, graph.
that's the,
Those are zoned, heavy industrial. Those two separate lots, are they not? Isn't that the Onsrud's, business park?
I mean, the zoning on them, yes.
and we're not ever gonna be able to go back to light industrial
Are
probably.
you talking about here?
There's two lots, the blue lots right there, yes.
Yeah, we can check that. I'm not 100% sure where the line
That's
is.
en route, right?
The Onsrud's got the business park
It's
right
gotta
there.
be heavy industrial.
So we should reflect what's currently there, correct?
Technology lane, right?
Are you talking about changing the light gray to dark gray?
Changing the blue to light gray.
I think that might be the EMS station.
One of them, but I thought the EMS station was on the fairgrounds itself, because you had,
And then behind there is the parking, the additional.
that's Onsrud's.
Is that part of Onsrud's?
That's Onsrud's,
Because you have a wood line there that divides it.
Well, there's two, there's supposed to be two cul-de-sacs
You see the ones you're
that
talking
go, you got the one that goes where Old Murdoch goes in and goes straight across. And then you take a left,
adjacent to the,
and you cross the little creek, and then you're supposed to have two,
Yeah, I see
cul-de-sacs
that.
right there that goes for industrial park.
I think we did talk about that.
Just verify, I think those need to be back gray instead of blue.
Okay. I'll check it. If it's not on
Leave it blue. I mean, if it
yeah.
didn't, if it's civic, it's civic.
Here's
There-
Onsrud. That's
Here's the little
cul-de-sac.
road.
No,
Those
one on
are-
on the other side.
Right, and then
Right here, this is graded out
this is EMS.
for, the other cul-de-sac. It's Onsrud's.
Heavy industrial?
It was zoned civic, or it's labeled as civic here, it needs to be, industrial, because that's what
but
they're
the county-
marketing.
The county didn't buy those two pieces of property.
Not that I know of. I mean, please check, I mean, I could be
We'll check
wrong.
it. We'll check it.
It was reported that it had been sold to the Balloon Festival folks.
I thought it was,
And that,
I may be wrong if that's the case, I
that was
admit.
a long time ago, and
Yeah.
they did not. That was what was reported, so they would have a right of way to go through to the big property behind it.
No, I've got a question here. On the ones like or Onslow, that are actually heavy industrial now, would we put it on the map now as light industrial, which we have? I mean, would you?
Let's check that and make sure, see how it's zoned, and then have it, the color reflect whether it's light or heavy industrial.
Yeah.
On either side of Technology Road. The name of it, Technology Street.
I mean, if it's not built on, I guess we could,
Make it light.
we could leave it as light, but if it's already zoned heavy, they don't have to come to us for rezoning.
No, and he's
This is-
already planning to build a mirror image on the left side of what he has on the right side. So it should reflect the vision that we have, and if the right side's heavy, the left side should be heavy. Dark gray, light gray, or vice versa.
I mean, of what is currently there and built on or getting ready to be built on. It's already zoned heavy, they're not gonna
No.
come back and wanna make it light.
Yeah, we'll look at it, and if it is on through, we'll make it HI, that's not a problem.
Okay, and I guess the only other concern I have is some of these houses, they're nicer houses. With us doing this, they could come in and say, okay, we wanna put light industrial and it's right beside the houses, and that's my only, I mean,
Well, we're doing that now, putting heavy
I know heavy's
next to
not.
housing.
Well, really, if you keep it gray, they're not gonna come sell it, because what developers are looking for is this color, the light green. They're not looking for the gray, because the gray is a whole lot more expensive per acre than it is the green.
Well, that was a debate. We were sitting there, do we want this area to be housing developments? Or are we gonna envision this as light industrial through this section up to exit 45? And that was in even our last meeting.
I guarantee you, I'll bet you a Coca-Cola right now, the green will sell faster than the gray will. Wherever you put it. the
To a
green-
Ryan Home or somebody of that nature. Like
No,
we had
no,
this
to
evening.
if you look at the past industrial spots
Mhm.
that were done at the 42, at the Murdoch Road,
They were green prior. is
they were
what you're
green
saying.
prior.
Okay, I'm with you.
Cause they can buy it cheaper.
They can buy it for,
They were in the county, they were already in the county.
but I mean, they bought it as a green for $10,000 an acre and turned around and sold it for $50,000 an acre.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the green will sell a whole lot faster than the gray will. Otherwise, I changed mine from gray to green. I like it.
Okay, is there any more comments, questions, concerns? Do we wanna make a recommendation tonight, or is everybody comfortable with that, or they want more time to look at this, or? Okay.
If he's good, the general's good, we're good.
General's. All right, is there a recommendation, motion for a recommendation regarding the future land use map update?
Make a motion to approve it with verifying current zoning, that we're not contradicting the current zoning as you brought up.
And changing that.
Can you say that one more time so I can hear you?
It's the last topic that we just had a conversation on, is verifying what the current zoning is. So if the current zoning as in technology is in conflict with
So, but you're talking about those few pieces of property, because
There's
there's
specific.
many pieces of property
right,
on
'cause
this map
we made broad
that are
strokes.
zoned one way
Right.
and painted a different way.
Correct.
We're not going lot,
No.
parcel by parcel.
Right. That has to do with the
Those-
technology.
On-route property.
It's a vision, it's not a checkerboard.
I had it as check property on each side of Technology Drive and make adjustments as needed.
Yes, it's the
Based
blue.
on the zone.
Yes, it's colored blue,
Back to the west side.
Carolina blue now. Just verify, please.
Will do.
And then
And also this,
the gray piece, or the brown piece.
Remove
The
the,
brown, got the
East
brown.
side's already got
Yeah,
under on it.
make it medium density residential.
Yes, ma'am.
So
So I make a motion to approve based on those two notes that we just highlighted.
Now, they're,
Oh,
And in the text amendment, going from 4 high density to 3. In the text. Point number 8.
no.
On the
Nine.
on the definitions.
Thank you.
Got
On the
it. I
definitions.
got that too.
okay. Is there a second?
A second.
All those approve, well, is there any discussion? All those approved? Aye. Any against? All right.
I got old business. That's next, right?
Yeah, other business, not old business.
I got other business. I got just a question. The digital message board is at the 42. Is that in concurrence to what the standard?
As far as I know, yes.
Because the size was, I thought the size was supposed to be a whole lot less than that as far as what was displayed. And it was supposed to have a brick facade or a stone facade.
You're correct about the brick facade, yes.
Okay.
Thank you for mentioning that. But as far as the size,
It was supposed to, I was trying to look it and I couldn't find it.
I'll
But
check
if you
that.
would check on that,
Yes,
please.
be glad to.
And any other business?
No, I want to add on to
Sorry.
on that digital signage, wasn't there supposed to be, no, I haven't sat there to watch it flip 8 times or whatever the flips were, but isn't there supposed to be at least one flip that's for the town?
Yes.
Yeah.
And what's our message?
Well, no, I don't think it was just for the town. I think it was for any business in town, like a small business owner, or I don't think it was it could be for the town of Troutman, but I think it could be
Well, it was supposed to go through the town, right? Was it not?
No, I thought we got one,
the town or and if I remember correctly, it was or any like town small business could use it, that kind of thing.
I think it was event or business could use it, or, some type of advertising, or.
But I thought it had to go through the town to get permission, like if whatever Dawson's wanted to advertise, they could take the Troutman spot on the flip. And I think it had to get y'all approval.
we should have a spot, so I'm just wondering, do we have a spot? Do we have something up there saying, welcome to Troutman, or stop on in, or?
Eat it, Joe's.
Because they said that was part of like the compensation.
That
They
was
wanna
the
give you
compensation.
Yeah.
a thing every month, yeah, you're right.
If you get on exit 42, it's right behind the pilot,
Yeah.
like it's on 77 at the pilot.
I haven't seen it.
You really don't notice
Oh,
it.
yeah, I saw it because everything advertising on it is for Mooresville.
I told you.
Uh-huh.
That
No,
makes sense.
that's why I don't know.
Can you tell us, as far as update us on last month's or to this month's town council as to what occurred that we voted on?
Yes, this month, the Perth Road rezoning was deferred. So the council will hear that November 10th. So they did decide on the other item, which was the Rocky Creek, just the simple rezoning that we did. They approved that. But the Perth Road one, they have not made a decision on. The applicant chose to defer it.
Same with the
What about the Murdoch?
applicant on Murdoch Road.
Yes, I apologize. Murdoch Road deferred as well. They deferred right after the planning board meeting, but those will both be heard November 10th.
Perth Road will be on the
November 10th.
calendar.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anything else?
Excuse me. No, sir. No, sir.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? All those in favor? Meeting adjourned.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump.
That's all right. Well, you're the reason why you had to wait a little longer.